The thing about standing in front of 3,000 people is that you can hear everything and nothing at the same time. Westminster Abbey, June 14th. The investiture ceremony for the Order of the British Empire. I was posted at the northeast transept. Stone columns older than any living memory rose around me like witnesses. My boots, polished to a reflective shine that morning by my own hands, pressed in a carpet so thick it swallowed sound. The carpet was crimson, royal crimson, the kind of red that costs more per square foot than most people earn in a month. I'd been standing there for 47 minutes. My bearskin cap added 11 inches to my height. For pounds to my head, the chin strap cut into my jaw at the exact angle it always did, just below the bone, where the skin bruises purple if you wear it long enough. The Abbey smelled like old prayer books and furniture polish. Organ music rolled through the vaulted ceiling. Hundred. Something ceremonial I should have recognized, but didn't. The notes bounced off stone and stained glass, creating echoes that made it sound like the music was coming from inside the walls themselves. Row after row of dignitaries filled the nave. Lords, ladies, politicians in morning dress, military brass with enough medals to stock a pawn shop. Everyone seated, everyone watching the dais where His Majesty stood in full regalia, about to knight some tech billionaire who'd donated to the right causes. My job was simple. Stand. Don't move. Don't blink. Don't exist. I was good at it. 17 months in a household division. Queen's Guard before the transition. King's Guard after. I knew how to become furniture. How to let tourists take photos with me while I stared at nothing. How to ignore the heat, the cold, the cramps in my calves, the itch behind my knee that felt like a spider crawling up my leg. How to be a symbol instead of a person. The ceremony continued. His Majesty spoke words I couldn't quite hear. The acoustics in Westminster are strange. You can hear a pin drop in some corners and miss a full sentence in others. I caught fragments. Distinguished service. The realm. Honor to bestow. The billionaire knelt. A man in his 60s with silver hair and an expression that suggested he'd practiced this moment in front of a mirror. His suit probably cost what I made in a year. Maybe two. The sword came down on his right shoulder. Then his left. Applause rippled through the Abbey like water. I didn't move. My eyes fixed on a point approximately 8 feet above the Archbishop's head. A stone angel carved into the wall. Wings spread. Sword raised. Face worn smooth by 600 years of candle smoke and prayers. I'd been staring at that angel for 47 minutes. That's when it happened. Not dramatic. Not sudden. Just a smell. Boot polish and diesel fuel. Faint. Barely there. Probably from the motor coach that had dropped off the Danish delegation earlier, mixing with the scent of the polish I'd used that morning. A chemical coincidence. Nothing more. But my brain didn't care about chemistry. My brain went somewhere else. September 2nd, 5 years earlier. Catterick Garrison, North Yorkshire. I was 22 years old and terrified. The depot smelled like boot polish and diesel fuel. Always. Morning, noon, night didn't matter. The scent soaked into the buildings, the parade ground, your skin. You could shower 3 times and still smell it on yourself before bed. I stood in a concrete room that used to be storage. 37 other recruits around me. All of us in civilian clothes for the last time. Jeans, hoodies, trainers. The things we'd arrived in. The things we'd arrived as. Color Sergeant Davies walked the line. He was compact, built like a crowbar. His uniform so crisp it could have cut glass. His eyes moved over us like we were livestock at auction. You lot, he said, are about to become soldiers. His voice bounced off concrete walls. Some of you will fail. That's fine. We don't need some of you. Some of you will quit. That's fine too. Saves us the paperwork. He stopped in front of me. I was tall. 6'2". Skinny then. Hadn't filled out yet. My Adam's apple bobbed when I swallowed. Davies looked up at me. He was maybe 5'9". He said, "What's your name?" "Mitchell, Sergeant." My voice cracked. Actually cracked. Like I was 13 again. "You scared, Mitchell?" "No, Sergeant." "You're lying, Mitchell." "Yes, Sergeant." The corner of his mouth moved. Not quite a smile. Something else. "Good," he said. "Fear keeps you sharp. Keeps you alive. The ones who aren't scared are the ones who get hurt." He moved on. 20 minutes later, we were issued our kit. Uniforms in a pile. Boots that smelled like factory rubber. Berets that wouldn't shape right for weeks. Everything stamped with Ministry of Defense inventory numbers. I held my dress uniform in both hands. The red tunic. The one I'd seen in photos. In films. On tourist cameras. The uniform that meant something to people who'd never worn one. It weighed less than I expected. The fabric was rough. Wool blend. Built to last decades. Built to survive men who'd sweat through it, bleed on it, wear it until it became part of their posture. I'd wanted this. Wanted it since I was 14 and watched the trooping of the color on television with my grandfather. He'd served. Queen's Regiment. Different era. Different wars. But he'd stood the same way these men stood. Carried the same stillness. Try it on, someone said. I looked up. Davy stood in the doorway. Go on, he said. See if it fits. I pulled the tunic over my t-shirt. The buttons were brass. Cold against my fingers. I fumbled with them. Got 3 done before I realized they were in the wrong holes. Started over. Davies watched. When I finished, I stood there. Arms at my sides. The tunic hung wrong. Too loose in the shoulders. The collar gaped at my neck. Needs tailoring, Davies said. You all need tailoring. But you'll grow into it. He stepped closer. Look at me, Mitchell. I met his eyes. This uniform, he said, doesn't make you special. It makes you responsible. Every time you put it on, you're carrying something that belongs to everyone who wore it before you. Understand? Yes, Sergeant. You'll hate it. You'll sweat through it. You'll want to burn on days when your feet are bleeding and some tourist spits on you because they don't like the monarchy. But you'll wear it anyway, because it's not about you. He tapped the front of the tunic. It's about this. I didn't understand then. I nodded anyway. Westminster Abbey. Present day. The applause faded. I was still staring at the stone angel. My hands, white glove positioned precisely along the seam of my trousers, felt damp inside the fabric. Not sweat. Something else. The phantom memory of fumbling with brass buttons in a concrete room in Yorkshire. The ceremony continued. Another name called. Another recipient approaching the dais. I blinked. Broke protocol. Not supposed to blink. Not supposed to move. Not supposed to exist. But I blinked. And for just a second, maybe less, I wasn't in Westminster Abbey. I was 22 years old, holding a uniform that didn't fit, listening to a color sergeant tell me I'd grow into something I couldn't yet imagine. I was terrified. I was hopeful. I was about to begin. The organ music swelled. His Majesty moved to the next recipient. A woman this time. Humanitarian work in Uganda. Her face composed. Proud. Ready for this moment she'd probably dreamed about. I focused on my breathing. In through the nose. Slow. Controlled. Out through barely parted lips. No sound. The bearskin cap pressed down on my skull. The chin strap cut into my jaw. My boots held me to the earth. I was here. I was present. I was professional. But somewhere beneath the red tunic, beneath the training, beneath 17 months of learned stillness, I was still that scared kid in Catterick. Still fumbling with buttons that wouldn't align. Still trying to understand what it meant to carry something bigger than myself. The ceremony would last another hour. I would stand here, perfectly still. But the past had already found me, and I couldn't shake it loose. The thing about memory is it doesn't knock. It kicks the door down and walks in wearing the same boots it wore 5 years ago. I was losing focus. Not visibly. My spine stayed straight. My chin stayed level. My eyes stayed fixed on that stone angel with the worn smooth face. To the 3,000 people in Westminster Abbey, I was exactly what I was supposed to be. Furniture. Tradition. A photograph waiting to happen. But inside my head, the walls were crumbling. Catterick. Week 3 of basic training. The parade ground at 0530 hours. Dark. October dark. The kind that makes you forget the sun exists. We ran drills in formation. Left. Right. About turn. Quick march. The commands came like machine gun fire. Davies and 2 other sergeants circled us like sharks, finding every mistake, every hesitation, every moment we stopped being synchronized pieces of one larger machine. I messed up the timing on a left turn. Half a second late. Davies was there instantly. Mitchell, do you think the king waits for you? No, Sergeant. Do you think ceremony pauses because you can't count to 4? No, sergeant. Then, move when the command comes. Not when you feel like it. Yes, sergeant. We ran it again. 37 men moving as one. Boots hitting tarmac in perfect rhythm. The sound echoed off the barracks. A percussion that had been repeating itself for hundreds of years on parade grounds, just like this one. I got it right that time, and the next time, and the time after that. But my legs burned. My lungs burned. The cold air felt like breathing broken glass. There was a recruit named Harper 2 rows behind me. Older guy, maybe 30. He'd quit the week before, just walked off the parade ground mid-drill, and never came back. Someone said he'd had a panic attack. Someone else said he'd realized this wasn't what he thought it would be. I didn't judge him. I'd thought about quitting every single day. Some mornings I'd wake up, and the thought would be there before I even opened my eyes. A voice that said, "You don't have to do this. You could leave. You could go home." Home was Manchester, a flat I'd shared with 2 roommates who worked at a call center. My mom lived 20 minutes away. She cried when I told her I was enlisting. "You'll be one of those guards," she'd said. "The ones who stand still." "That's the plan?" I'd told her. Why? I hadn't known how to answer. Because my grandfather had served? Because I wanted to belong to something? Because I was 22 and directionless, and the idea of wearing a uniform that meant something to strangers felt like purpose? All of those. None of those. I still didn't know. Westminster Abbey. The organ music changed. Different piece. Different composer. Something Baroque that made the air feel heavier. A bishop approached the dais. Elderly. Moved slowly. His robes, purple and gold, dragged slightly on the crimson carpet. His Majesty waited. Patient. Regal. The way kings wait when they've been waiting their entire lives to be king. I felt a bead of sweat form at my hairline. Not good. Sweating meant I was thinking too much. Thinking meant I was present in my body instead of absent from it. Absent was better. Absent meant the time passed without you noticing. I tried to empty my mind. Focus on nothing. Be nothing. But the boot polish smell wouldn't leave. And neither would Catterick. Week 7. We'd earned our first weekend leave. 48 hours off base. Most of the lads went to Newcastle. Got drunk. Found girls. Came back Sunday night smelling like regret and kebabs. I went home to Manchester. Mum made roast chicken. Her specialty. She'd invited my uncle and my grandfather. Made a proper Sunday dinner like I'd been gone for months instead of weeks. I sat at the kitchen table in civilian clothes that didn't fit right anymore. Everything felt loose. Wrong. Like I was wearing someone else's skin. My grandfather sat across from me. 83 years old. Spine still straight. Hand still steady when he cut his chicken. "How is it then?" he asked. "Hard," I said. "Should be. I'm not sure I'm good at it." He put his fork down. "What do you think good at it means?" I shrugged. "Being natural. Not messing up. That's not what it means." He reached for his water glass. Took a sip. His hand shook slightly. Age, not fear, but the glass didn't spill. "Being good at it," he said, "means you keep going even when you're not natural. Even when you mess up. The uniform doesn't care if you're talented. It cares if you're stubborn." "I don't feel stubborn." "You're there, aren't you?" "Yeah." "Then you're stubborn enough." Mum brought out apple crumble. The conversation shifted, but I kept thinking about what he'd said. The uniform doesn't care if you're talented. I'd spent 7 weeks trying to be perfect, trying to match the men who moved like they'd been born in formation, trying to disappear into the drill the way Davies said we were supposed to. But I kept being myself. Clumsy. Half a second late. Thinking too much. Maybe that was fine. Maybe stubborn was enough. Westminster Abbey. Someone coughed. 3rd row from the front. A dry, hacking sound that cut through the organ music. No one reacted. You learn not to react. Coughs. Phones. Babies crying. Tourists fainting in the heat. None of it matters. You're a statue. Statues don't have opinions about coughs. I kept staring at the angel. But my left knee was starting to lock. Happens when you stand too still for too long. The joint forgets how to bend. Blood pools in strange places. You shift your weight, microscopically, invisibly, and hope no one notices. I shifted, half an inch to my right foot. Relief. Small. Temporary. Enough. Catterick. Week 12. Drill, final assessment. The entire platoon on the parade ground. Officers watching from a reviewing stand. Davies and the other sergeants positioned at intervals, clipboards in hand, counting mistakes like accountants count pennies. We practiced this routine for 3 months. Every step, every turn, every salute and halt and present arms. We knew it in our sleep, in our bones. But knowing and doing are different animals. The first command came. Attention! 37 heels clicked together. I was in the second rank, third position from the left. I could see Harper's back in front of me. He'd stayed. Somehow. Guy had almost quit 4 times, but kept showing up every morning. By the right quick march, we moved. Left foot first, arms swinging in perfect opposition. Thumbs along the seam of our trousers. Eyes front, breathing controlled. The rhythm took over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left, right, left, right. I wasn't thinking anymore. I was just moving. We executed a left wheel. Perfect synchronization. 37 men becoming one organism with one mind. Column right. Mark time. Forward. The commands kept coming, and we kept answering. Not because we were talented. Because we'd done it 10,000 times. Because stubborn was enough. Westminster Abbey. His Majesty finished with a humanitarian worker. She stepped back, bowed, returned to her seat. The next recipient approached. Younger man, maybe 40. Tech sector again. Something about artificial intelligence and medical diagnostics. I didn't care. My thoughts were 5 years away and 700 miles north. Catterick. The day we received our posting assignments. I'd requested household division. Long shot. Most recruits don't get their first choice. You go where they need you. Infantry. Logistics. Communications. The ceremonial units. Household division. Kingsguard. Those took connections or luck or scores so high they couldn't ignore you. I didn't have connections. I didn't have perfect scores. But I'd been stubborn. Davies called my name. Mitchell. Step forward. I did. He held a folder. Didn't open it. You wanted ceremonial duties, he said. Yes, Sergeant. What? Dangerous question. Right answer could get you what you wanted. Wrong answer could send you to a supply depot in Germany. I thought about lying. Didn't. My grandfather served, I said. Queen's Regiment. He used to tell me about standing guard at Windsor. Said it was the proudest thing he'd ever done. I want to know what that feels like. Davies opened the folder. Household division, he said. Windsor and London rotation. Report to Wellington Barracks in 2 weeks. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. Sergeant, you're surprised? Yes, Sergeant. Don't be. You're not the best recruit I've seen. You're not the fastest or the sharpest. But you show up. Every day, every drill. You show up and you don't quit. That's what ceremonial duty needs. Men who show up. He handed me the folder. Don't embarrass me, Mitchell. I won't, Sergeant. I never saw him again after that. Westminster Abbey. The AI tech guy knelt. His Majesty raised the sword. The blade caught the light from the stained glass windows. Reds, blues, golds. Colors that had been filtering through those windows since before my grandfather was born. Since before anyone I'd ever known was born. The sword touched the man's shoulder. I blinked again. Bad habit. Focus was slipping. I needed to ground myself. Find something in the present to anchor to. The angel wasn't working anymore. I shifted my eyes, just barely, just enough, to the crimson carpet beneath my boots. Royal crimson. The kind of red that costs more per square foot than most people earn in a month. I'd thought that earlier. The exact same thought. I was repeating myself. Repeating meant spiraling. Spiraling meant trouble. The first time I wore the full uniform on duty. Windsor Castle. Tourist shift. August. 31 degrees. The bearskin cap felt like wearing a furnace. I stood at sentry post outside the guardroom. The rifle on my shoulder weighed 9 pounds. Hadn't seemed like much during training. Seemed like everything after the first hour. Tourists everywhere. Cameras. Phones. Children pointing. Adults asking questions I couldn't answer because answering wasn't allowed. A woman approached. American accent. 60s. Son half the size of a satellite dish. Can I take a photo with you? She asked. I stared straight ahead. He's not allowed to talk, her husband said. I know that, she said. I'm just asking. She stood next to me anyway, smiled at her husband's camera. Flash. She walked away. 3 more people immediately took her place. This continued for 2 hours. My feet screamed. My back screamed. The heat baked me inside the wool tunic. I thought about Davies. You show up. Every day. Every drill. You show up, and you don't quit. I didn't quit. I stood there. And when my shift ended, and the next guard marched out to relieve me, I executed the exchange with precision. Every step exactly where it was supposed to be. I'd done it. First real duty. Complete. I walked back to the guard room, feeling like I climbed Everest. One of the senior guards, a lance corporal named Reeves, was waiting inside. Good, he asked. Good, I said. Feet hurt. Like hell. They'll stop hurting. When? He grinned. Never. But you'll stop noticing. Westminster Abbey. Present day. My feet hurt. I'd stopped noticing years ago. But now, thinking about Windsor, about that first shift, about Reeves who'd been killed in a traffic accident 6 months later, I noticed again. The ache in my arches. The pressure on my heels. The way my toes felt compressed inside boots that fit perfectly but would never feel comfortable. The ceremony continued. More names. More recipients. More applause that sounded like ocean waves breaking on stone. I was here. I was present. I was professional. But I was also 22 years old, holding a uniform that didn't fit, listening to a color sergeant tell me I'd grow into something I couldn't yet imagine. I was both things at once. And I had no idea how to get back to just being one. Time moves differently when you're drowning in your own head. Westminster Abbey. Still here. Still standing. But I lost track of how many recipients had approached the dais. How many names had been called. How many rounds of applause had risen and fallen like breathing. The organ music had changed again. Something modern this time. Contemporary composer. The notes didn't quite belong in a building this old. They scraped against the stone like fingernails on slate. My jaw ached from the chin strap. My shoulders ached from holding position. My mind ached from being everywhere except here. Wellington Barracks. 6 months into my posting. December. London cold. The kind that seeps through wool and find your bones. I was on rotation at Buckingham Palace. Sentry box duty. For hours on. For hours off. Day shift turning into night shift turning into day again. The city smelled like exhaust and chestnuts roasting from street vendors. Tourists still came. Fewer than summer. But enough. A little girl approached my sentry box. Maybe 5 years old. Red coat. Matching hut. Holding her father's hand. She stared up at me. I stared at nothing. Is he real? She whispered to her father. Her father laughed. Very real. Just very good at staying still. She stepped closer. Why doesn't he move? It's his job. He's protecting the palace. From what? Good question, kid. From anything that might cause trouble, her father said. She considered this. Then, she did something I didn't expect. She saluted me. Tiny hand to tiny forehead. Serious expression. Her father tried to pull her away. Embarrassed. But she held the salute. And breaking protocol, breaking training, breaking every rule about being furniture, shifted my eyes down to meet hers. Just for a second. She grinned. Enormous grin. Like she'd won something. Her father pulled her away. Apologizing to no one in particular. I reset my position. Eyes front. Expressionless. But something warm had lodged in my chest. A little girl who thought I was worth saluting. Westminster Abbey. Someone's phone buzzed. Quiet. Muffled. But unmistakable. Somewhere in the middle rows. The owner frantically silencing it. Heads turned. Polite disapproval. Silent judgment. The ceremony continued. His Majesty didn't pause. Didn't acknowledge it. Kings don't acknowledge buzzing phones. I wanted to smile. Couldn't. But I wanted to. Catterick. Final week of basic training. We've been given our first weekend pass. Proper one. Not just 48 hours. 4 full days before reporting to our postings. I went back to Manchester again. Mum made roast chicken again. My grandfather was there again. But this time felt different. I sat at the kitchen table in my dress uniform. Full ceremonial. Red tunic. Polished buttons. Bearskin cap. resting on the chair beside me. Mom took photos, fussed over the collar, cried a little. My grandfather just looked at me. Long look, quiet. Then he stood, walked to his bedroom, came back carrying something wrapped in cloth. He set on the table. Open it, he said. I unwrapped it carefully. Inside was his old service cap. Queen's Regiment. Faded. The badge tarnished, but still legible. I wore this at Windsor, he said. 1964. Stood sentry for 6 months before they sent me to Aden. He picked up the cap, turned it in his hands. Different era, he said. Different wars. Different queen. But same duty. He sat back down. You keep it. Granddad, keep it. Remind yourself why you signed up. Because there will be days when you forget. Days when it feels pointless. Days when some tourist spits on you or some officer screams at you for a mistake you didn't make. He tapped the cap. On those days, remember this. You're not standing there for yourself. You're standing there for everyone who stood there before you. And everyone who will stand there after. I didn't know what to say, so I nodded. You'll do fine, he said. 3 months later, he was dead. Heart attack. Quick. Peaceful. I got emergency leave to attend the funeral. Wore my dress uniform. Carried his cap in my hands during the service. Mom tried to return it to me afterward. I told her to keep it. He gave it to you, she said. I know, but I don't need it anymore. I remember why I signed up. I did. I remembered. Westminster Abbey. The ceremony was ending. Finally. 90 minutes I'd been standing here. 90 minutes of organ music and applause and memories I couldn't control. His Majesty stepped down from a dais. The Archbishop approached. Final benediction. Latin phrases I'd heard 100 times, but never learned the meaning of. The congregation stood. 3,000 people rising as one. The organ swelled. Something triumphant. Something that made the walls vibrate. His Majesty processed down the center aisle. Slow. Measured. Every step deliberate. He passed within 15 feet of my position. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stood. The way I'd been trained. The way my grandfather had stood. The way men had stood in this building for centuries, wearing different uniforms, serving different monarchs, but carrying the same stillness. The same duty. The abbey emptied slowly. Dignitaries filtering out through side doors. Conversations resuming. The spell breaking. I remained at my post until the relief guard marched in. Precision exchange. Every step rehearsed. He took position. I marched out. Outside, the June afternoon hit me like a wall. Warm. Humid. The smell of London in summer. Exhaust and Thames water and flowers from Parliament Square. I walked back toward the changing area. Boots clicking on pavement. Other guards around me. Same routine. Same day. Nobody spoke. We didn't need to. I changed out of the ceremonial uniform in silence. Hung the tunic carefully. Placed the bearskin cap in its case. Unlaced my boots and set them in my locker. My civilian clothes felt strange. Too soft. Too light. I checked my phone. Text from Mom. Saw you on the news. So proud. I smiled. Typed back. Just standing. Nothing special. But I didn't send it. Deleted it. Typed instead. Thanks, Mom. Love you. Sent. I took the tube back to barracks. Victoria line. Crowded. Rush hour starting early. I stood near the doors. Held the rail. Watched London slide past the windows. A woman sat nearby. Reading a book. Cover face down. She glanced up. Noticed me. Long day? She asked. Bit, I said. What do you do? I almost said, I stand still. I wear a heavy hat. I carry something that belongs to everyone who wore it before me. Instead, I said, I'm a soldier. Oh, she smiled. Thank you for your service. Generic phrase. Meant nothing. Meant everything. Just doing my job, I said. The train stopped. She got off at the next station. The doors closed. I was alone with 200 strangers. Back at barracks, I found a note in my locker. Handwriting I recognized. Sergeant Major Phillips. My current CO, Mitchell. See me before you sign out. My stomach dropped. Notes like that usually meant trouble. I walked to his office. Knocked. Enter. Phillips sat behind his desk. 50-something. 3 decades in service. Face like carved granite. Mitchell. Seat. He said. He studied me. How was Westminster today? Good, sir. No incidents. You sure? My pulse quickened. Yes, sir. He opened a folder, pulled out a photograph. Photographer from the Times caught this. Around the 70-minute mark, he turned the photo toward me. It was me, standing in my post, eyes forward. But something was wrong with my face. Not visibly wrong, not protocol-breaking wrong, just present. You could see it. In the photograph, some micro-expression I hadn't realized I was making. I looked like a person thinking instead of the statue being. Sir, relax, Mitchell. You're not in trouble. He set the photo down. I'm showing you this because I want you to understand something. He leaned back. You've been with us 17 months now. You're a good soldier, reliable, professional, but you're young. And young soldiers sometimes forget that this job isn't about disappearing. It's about being present while looking absent. I didn't understand. He continued. The tourists who take photos with you, the children who salute you, the reporters who photograph ceremonies, they're not looking at furniture. They're looking at a person who's chosen to represent something bigger than themselves. And that's hard. Some days it's impossible. But that's the job. He tapped the photograph. You were thinking about something today. I don't know what. Don't need to know. But whatever it was, it made you present. And that's not a bad thing. As long as you can come back. He closed the folder. Did you come back? I thought about it. The ceremony. The memories. The smell of boot polish and diesel fuel. My first day in uniform. Fumbling with brass buttons. Davies telling me I'd grow into something I couldn't yet imagine. The little girl who saluted me outside Buckingham Palace. My grandfather's cap. His words. I've been everywhere today except Westminster Abbey. But I'd come back. Stood my post. Finished the duty. Yes, sir, I said. I came back. Good. Then we're fine. He dismissed me. That evening I called my mom. Saw your text. I said. Was I really on the news? Just a few seconds. Background shot during the ceremony. But I spotted you. How'd you know it was me? Mother's intuition. She paused. You looked, I don't know, thoughtful. Yeah. Like you were remembering something. I didn't ask how she could tell that from a background shot on television. Mums just know. I said. Good memories? Mostly. Your granddad would be proud. I know. We talked for a few more minutes. Nothing important. Just talk. When we hung up, I sat on my bunk. The barracks were quiet. Most of the lads out drinking. I had the room to myself. I thought about Davies. About that first day at Catterick. About holding a uniform that didn't fit and being told I'd grow into it. I had. Not because I was talented. Not because I was perfect. Because I'd showed up. Every day. Every drill. Every ceremony where my feet hurt and my jaw ached and the memories threatened to pull me under. I'd showed up, and I'd keep showing up, because the uniform didn't belong to me. It belonged to everyone who wore it before me, and everyone who'd wear it after. Westminster Abbey had been hours ago, but I could still smell the boot polish, still hear the organ music, still see that stone angel with the worn smooth face. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was just Mitchell, private, household division, Kingsguard, 27 years old, 17 months of service. And finally, understanding what it meant to carry something bigger than myself. The ceremony had interrupted me today, but I'd interrupted it right back. And we both survived.